Right now, your phone is within arm's reach. You know this. You checked it 11 minutes ago. Nothing had changed. But you checked it anyway. You tell yourself it's boredom. You tell yourself it's habit. But the real answer is far stranger. The real answer is buried in your ancestors' bones, in a savanna that no longer exists, in a brain that was built for a world without screens and never got the memo. Your brain doesn't know what a phone is. Not really. It doesn't understand apps. It doesn't understand notifications. What it understands is something much older. It understands a rustle in tall grass. It understands a shape moving at the edge of vision. It understands the difference between danger and food and safety, and it has been making that split-second calculation for roughly 2 million years. Your phone just happens to trigger the same ancient circuitry. Think about what checking your phone actually feels like. There's a pull. A small itch behind the eyes. You pick it up before you've even decided to. Psychologist B.F. Skinner spent decades studying exactly this kind of pull, though his subjects were pigeons, not people. He built a box. Inside the box, a pigeon could peck a lever. Sometimes the peck produced food. Sometimes it didn't. And here's the strange part. When the reward was unpredictable, the pigeons pecked harder. Faster. More obsessively than when the food came every single time. Skinner called it variable ratio reinforcement. You might know it by a simpler name. A slot machine. Your phone is not designed to reward you every time you check it. Most of the time, there's nothing. No message. No like. No new post worth seeing. But every so often, there is something. A text from someone you like. A number that went up. A stranger's validation. And your brain, running software that predates agriculture, cannot tell the difference between a slot machine and a lion in the grass. Both are unpredictable. Both demand attention. Both feel, biologically, like something you cannot afford to ignore. But why would unpredictability feel so magnetic in the first place? Why not the opposite? Shouldn't certainty feel safer? The answer lives in a part of your brain most people have never heard of, and it involves a discovery that reshaped how scientists understand desire itself. In the 1990s, neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz was recording the activity of dopamine neurons in monkeys. The assumption at the time was simple. Dopamine spikes when you get a reward. Juice arrives, dopamine fires, pleasure follows. Clean and tidy. Except that's not what Schultz found. The dopamine neurons fired most intensely not when the reward arrived, but when the reward was uncertain. When a monkey didn't know if juice was coming, the anticipation itself lit up the brain more than the juice ever did. Schultz had stumbled onto something enormous. Dopamine isn't a pleasure chemical. It's a prediction chemical. It fires hardest in the gap between not knowing and finding out. That gap is where your phone lives. Every time you unlock the screen, you are stepping into that gap. You don't know what's there. And not knowing is, neurologically, more compelling than knowing. Now step back further. Much further. Back before phones, before writing, before cities. Your ancestors weren't checking screens. They were checking something else entirely, the environment itself, scanned constantly for information that might matter to survival. Evolutionary ecologist Eric Charnow formalized this behavior in what's known as the marginal value theorem, a mathematical model of how animals decide when to abandon one source of food and search for another. The logic is simple. A patch of berries eventually runs dry. The smart forager doesn't wait until it's completely empty. They leave a little early, while there's still some value left, because somewhere else, a fresh patch might be waiting. Constant, restless scanning wasn't a flaw in early humans. It was the strategy that kept them alive. You are still that forager. You just don't know it. Every scroll down a feed is a berry patch. Every refresh is leaving one patch to check another. Your thumb doesn't know it's not searching for food anymore. It's searching for information, and for tens of thousands of years, information was survival. A change in the wind. A rustle that wasn't the wind at all. Knowing first meant living longer. There's a second layer to this, one that has nothing to do with danger and everything to do with belonging. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar has spent much of his career studying why primates groom each other for hours every day, and why humans replaced physical grooming with something else entirely, talking. Gossip, in Dunbar's research, isn't idle chatter. It's social maintenance. It's how humans tracked who could be trusted, who had shifted alliances, who was rising or falling in the group. In small ancestral bands, missing that information could mean missing a betrayal, or missing your place in the tribe altogether. Your phone didn't invent gossip. It just made the grooming circle infinite. Every notification is a tiny signal that someone, somewhere, is thinking about your place in the group. And your brain, still wired for bands of maybe 150 people, cannot process the difference between a close friend and a stranger's like on a photo. Both register, faintly, as the same ancient question. Am I still safe here? Do I still belong? So when you feel that pull to check your phone, you are not weak. You are not broken. You are running the exact same hardware that once kept a small band of humans alive on an open plain, surrounded by threats and opportunities that changed by the hour. That hardware never got updated. It didn't need to be replaced. It only needed something new to point at. And in less than 2 decades, that's exactly what happened. Here's what makes this especially strange, though. The ancestral environment had built-in limits. Berry patches ran out. Grooming circles were small, capped by the size of your tribe. A predator, once it passed, was gone. Every ancient trigger for attention eventually resolved itself, one way or another. Your phone never resolves. There is no bottom to the feed. There is no final patch of berries. There is no moment when the tribe stops gossiping, because the tribe, now, is millions of strangers producing content every second of every day. The ancient system built for scarcity is now feeding on infinite abundance, and it has no idea how to turn itself off. This is why willpower alone rarely works. You're not fighting a bad habit. You're fighting a survival mechanism that has no reason, biologically, to believe the world has changed. As far as your dopamine system is concerned, uncertainty still equals opportunity. A notification still might be the rustle in the grass that matters. And knowing that, even for a second, quiets something ancient inside you, something that has been asking the same question since before language existed. What's out there right now? There's another wrinkle to this story, one that explains why the pull feels stronger at certain times than others. Have you noticed that the itch to check your phone gets worse when you're anxious? Worse when you're bored? Worse, strangely, right after you've already checked it and found nothing. That last part isn't a coincidence. It's a documented pattern. Researchers studying compulsive checking behavior have found that a near miss, a notification that turns out to be nothing, or a feed that almost delivers something interesting but doesn't discourage the next check. It accelerates it. Slot machine designers have known this for decades. A near miss feels almost like a win. Your brain logs it not as failure, but as evidence that a win is close. So you check again. And again. Each empty screen isn't proof that nothing is coming. To your dopamine system, it's proof that something might be coming next. Now layer in stress. Cortisol, the hormone your body releases under threat, doesn't just make you feel anxious. It narrows your attention and sharpens your need for information. This made perfect sense on the savannah. If you heard something in the grass, cortisol surged, and that surge demanded resolution. Was it a predator or wasn't it? You couldn't rest until you knew. Modern stress rarely comes with a clear resolution. A tense email. An awkward conversation. A vague sense that something is wrong. Your body still produces the same cortisol surge, and it still demands the same thing your ancestors' bodies demanded: check, scan, find out, resolve it. Except now there's no predator to identify. There's only a phone, offering the illusion of resolution through an endless stream of unrelated information. You check, but the itch doesn't go away, because the itch was never really about your phone. It was about an ancient hunger for certainty that a glowing screen can imitate but never actually satisfy. Consider, too, how this plays out across a single day. Morning. You wake up, and before your eyes have even adjusted to the light, your hand is already reaching. This isn't laziness. It's the same instinct that once made early humans assess their surroundings the moment they woke in the open: who's nearby, is it safe, has anything changed overnight? Midday, a lull in your work, a boring meeting, a quiet moment in line at a store. Boredom, in evolutionary terms, was never actually restful. Boredom was a signal. It meant your environment currently held no useful information, which meant it was time to go looking for some. Sitting still and doing nothing was, for most of human history, a luxury your ancestors rarely could afford. Idle hands meant an idle forager, and an idle forager fell behind. Evening, right before sleep, one more scroll. One more check. As if closing the loop on the day required one final scan of the horizon before it was safe to rest. None of these moments are really about the content on the screen. They're about a rhythm that has been running in the human nervous system since long before anyone could write it down. Understanding this doesn't erase the pull. But it does change what the pull means. It's not a character flaw lighting up in your pocket. It's 40,000 generations of survival instinct, compressed into a small glass rectangle, still doing exactly what it was built to do. Right now, your phone is still within arm's reach. Maybe you'll pick it up in a few minutes. Maybe you already know you will. But this time, when you feel that itch behind your eyes, you'll know what it actually is. Not boredom. Not weakness. Just an old forager, still scanning the grass, still asking the question that kept your ancestors alive, and still hasn't learned that the grass, this time, has no end.